As the most junior senator here, I'm happy to announce that all of the incoming Republican senators, the 13 of us, have written a letter to Leader Reid and Leader McConnell expressing our opposition to the Omnibus spending bill. In general, we feel that a 1,900-page bill spending over $1.1 trillion with over 6,000 earmarks is a message to the American people that the Congress doesn't get or understand the recent election. In our judgment, the Congress should pass a short-term, clean funding mechanism that breaks with the past and makes sure that large, unreviewed spending bills, chock full of earmarks, are part of our past but not our future. I will note that this bill spends over $570 million per page. It contains over $110 million in earmarks for our former junior senator, Roland Burris, the man I replaced. As the new junior senator for this Congress on this bill, I do not support this funding, did not request it, and oppose the underlying bill. If laid end to end, I think my figures show the bill would be over 1,300 feet long. If each dollar in the bill were laid end to end, it would stretch for over 310 million miles. This bill, about 40% of it will be borrowed, meaning that the United States must borrow approximately $440 billion to fund it. At the current cost of borrowing money for 30 years, that means the interest cost on the borrowing of this bill alone would be $20 billion annually. When you look at this letter, it's a fairly short letter, and we can send it to you. It has my name, Mark Kirk, Rand Paul, Kelly Ayotte, Pat Toomey, Roy Blunt, Marco Rubio, John Hoeven, Ron Johnson, Mike Lee, Rob Portman, John Bozeman, and Dan Coates. And then we had one other last minute, which was Jerry Moran, correct. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Senator, a lot of the criticism you just laid out about this omnibus bill would be perpetuated by extending the CR for another few months. I mean, the government essentially wouldn't be spending any less money, wouldn't be any less complexity, because you'd just be taking last year's bill and pushing it forward. From a good government perspective, isn't it better to say to each agency, here's what we as Congress want to do, here are the nuts and bolts of grants, et cetera. I've been talking to scientists
Right.
who are waiting for grants to come through because they're part of the next fiscal year, and they've been sitting around waiting for months and months.
Right.
So your response to that?
My response is that the lame duck Congress has a superseded mandate, making the actions of this Congress increasingly illegitimate, especially if they're large, expensive, and last far into the future. We already have a new Congress that's been chosen by the American people, and they should be making the long-term decisions. Should we prevent a huge tax increase from hitting the American economy prior to the new Congress coming? Yes, we should prevent that new tax increase. But should we put forward a largely unreviewed bill? I don't think we've had a single member of Congress admit that they've read this bill yet. And if there's one of the messages that came through loud and clear from the election, is that Congress should read its own legislation, should understand it, and with so many members and the new majority, especially taking control of the House, pledging not to earmarking should be part of our past, as evidenced by the decision the American people already made on November 5th. Yep. Yeah. As you know, I was the first member of the House Appropriations Committee to forswear earmarks, and I will say the House Appropriations Committee did little to nothing. First began working for the House Appropriations Committee as a staffer in the summer of 1984. I've never seen the Appropriations Committees do less work. I think that a very few number of members and staff have even looked at this bill. I would guess that less than 100 individuals have even seen it in any form before it was presented, and that represents a lack of transparency and accountability that I think is inappropriate for the election that we just had. In my view, the American people oftentimes have elected divided governments, where one chamber is controlled by the other party. And having one party look over the other party's shoulder is generally a good thing. This product is largely an unreviewed document representing an outdated mandate from November of 2008, which has already been superseded by a decision the people of the United States have made. Yeah.
Senator, for the benefit of people who are watching this process unfolding in Congress from outside the bounds and the logic of Washington,
Right.
can you help people kind of understand there's an apparent disconnect between, on the one hand, opposing temporary tax cuts, allowing them to expire as scheduled, which has a price tag attached to it, and on the other hand, saying that, spending and debt is of paramount concern.
Right.
People are having a very hard time understanding.
Yeah, I would say that the views of these members coming in, and the one that I would think is best for our country, is of not having a huge tax increase and having tremendous spending reductions at the same time. That's a consistent smaller government view. The view that I would not understand is cutting taxes and raising spending, which is the view as some members apparently in the House and Senate are going to vote. We should be preventing a huge tax increase and ratcheting down spending, in my view. Go ahead.
You're potentially going to see a number of Republicans who end up voting for the omnibus. Given the opposition from the freshman GOP senators, do you think Republicans who do vote for it deserve a primary challenge for re-election?
No, I mean, I think that our voice is one in which we're strongly urging members of the Senate, and by that I don't have a partisan tilt, members of the Senate not to support a 1,924-page, $1.1 trillion, 6,000 earmark bill. If there is a message from November of 2010, and I think we are fully qualified ambassadors of that message, it's that non-reviewed, non-transparent orgies of spending like this are inappropriate.
Is any pressure being put on some of the Republican senators who might sort of likely to support the omnibus?
I think there's hardly any pressure that can be put to bear on someone who's retiring. They're up to their conscience. But I would just say, as part of their review of this, that please listen to the newly elected senators who were just chosen by the American people. Yep. Anybody else?
Your best guess on how the next couple of days are going to play out here?
I think we're in for a long time, and I've already asked my staff next to the menorah to put up a Christmas tree in the office.
Senator, I want to ask you about START. 24 hours ago, you were on the stage and you offered 2 amendments that you wanted to propose to START.
Yep.
Do you plan to bring those to the floor at any point?
I do. It would make me much more likely to support the treaty if the amendments carried. I'm worried about a couple of things on the START treaty. I'm worried about full transparency and revelation of the role the Russians have with the government of Iran, the delivery of air defense equipment, the starting of plutonium production at the Bushehr reactor. I'm worried about the missile defense commitments of the United States, especially to Europe, that under one scenario, I think, I'm not sure, which is why why I have some doubt, but I think the general scenario led by the State Department would make the United States incapable of shooting down an ICBM launched from Iran. I think, but I'm not sure, that the plans put forward by the Defense Department would enable the United States to shoot down an ICBM from Iran. And to be blunt, I would like the Defense Department position in the Obama administration to prevail over the State Department provision, and I think our amendments would help carry that.
When are you planning to do
I'm not sure. You guys probably are a better, as the most junior senator, you're probably as good a read as I as to when the leadership will put forward the amendment process to the treaty. But I certainly am filing amendments to the treaty, which would help overcome concerns that I have. I'm now 3 weeks into even the ability to formally and officially look at a treaty. Certainly I cared about it as a member of the House, but had no vote. Now I do, so we're certainly came forward with some thoughts about weaknesses which could be addressed in amendments. Anybody else? Good. Yeah, one more, yeah.
Yeah, and also, different topic, don't ask, don't tell, if that comes before for vote, just thoughts on how you're gonna vote on that?
Yeah,
The loan bill?
it's a 300-page report that the Defense Department put forward. I think I'm on page 60 now, and I did stop reading the report to begin to read all the tax legislation that went through, and I must say I've been now plowing through the 1,900-page Omnibus, which seems to be the #1 issue in the country. But I have met with the service that I'm closest to, the Navy, the Chief of Naval Operations, Gary Ruffhead, and will continue my review if I hear that there's a vote coming up. From your tea leaves are as good as mine. I'm expecting that we're voting on START and the Omnibus first, so that's what I'm focusing on right now.
Does that mean they're still undecided, you're still looking at things?
Yep, still reviewing it. Yep. Thanks, everybody.